Welcome to the Dirtcar Jesters Podcast, your home for dirt track racing across the country and right here in the Ohio Valley. This is Josh, and in episode 56, I wish it was all a dream. Ohio Speedweek is upon us, and Ryan and Chad Barr hop on to talk about their roller coaster weekend leading to their first 410 sprint car victory. I hope you guys are ready to get dirty. This week in dirt racing history, we're going back to June 11th of 2004 at Lake Ozark Speedway. The All-Star Circuit of Champions were on hand, and Greg Wilson would get the victory. Kelly Kinzer in second, and Chad Kemenal would round out the podium.
Let me talk to you!
This week's talking points. Want to start, there's been a lot of talk about Justin Peck and Chris Windom as of late, as both of them have been pretty solid here recently. Peck through 27 races, 2 wins, 7 top 5s, and 15 top 10s. None of that counting his 360 stuff at the beginning of the season. Windom through 29 races, no wins, 3 top 5s, and 12 top 10s. The Eldora Dream, rain, go away. Rain Thursday set up for a busy Friday. Track was rough up top, and Heat 1 had multiple accidents. Luckily, that heat really was the worst of it all. They kind of cleaned it up as it went on, and the track came around that night. Saturday, the track looked much better to begin, and they started early in hopes of beating the rain that night, which they were able to pull off. And Jonathan Davenport, Superman, does it again, winning his third dream in a row. Indiana Midget Week so far, the rain has interfered a lot with this. The first 2 events they got him in, and it's rained ever since. Hopefully, as I'm recording this on June 8th, they're able to get in the finale. Current and former USAC Midwest Thunder Midget drivers Jacob Denny, Zach Weigel, Jacob Boxell, and Cale Coons are part of Midget Week, and Jacob Denny was able to grab a victory in one of those 2 races. The Dirtcar Summer National starts June 10th at Brownstown Bullring and runs through July 26th at Fairbury, and the Prairie Dirt Classic, 31 races in 34 days across 9 states. I'm tired just talking about it. Ohio Speed Week is here. Friday, June 13th, Attica. Saturday, June 14th, Sharon. Sunday, June 15th at Millstream. Monday, June 16th at Wayne County. Tuesday, June 17th at Eldora. Wednesday, June 18th at Fremont. Thursday, June 19th at Waynesfield. Friday, June 20th at Moeller. And wrapping it up, Saturday, June 21st at Atomic. Gonna be a rough one, and I fully expect to see some high-limit guys there, as they are off during Ohio Sprint Speed Week. Let's just hope Mother Nature plays nice. Now let's go behind the rock screen.
You're welcome to come on in. We'll bring out the moonshine, start telling lies and calling up the women. But no talk about racing. Come on.
Ryan and Chad Barr recently grabbing their first 410 sprint car victory on May 31st over a very solid field of 41 cars with the Boss Sprint cars at Montpelier. Gentlemen, welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
So, Ryan, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with you. You've had time to digest this win. What's it feel like?
It's still kind of unreal. I sit back now and look through everything, and it's still, like I said on Saturday in my interview, it's still a dream come true. But it's kind of setting in now. It's like, okay, we got the first one out of the way. That was fun. Now it's, let's focus on what's coming up next. Trying to get this thing ready for Eldora on Tuesday the 17th. And hopefully we can put it in victory lane there too. So now it's just, grab a hold of that memory and just start pushing forward to the next one.
Chad?
I'm still in shock, to be honest with you. I was, you always go to the track to prepare to win, to try to win, but I'm still kind of in awe that we did finally. It's like Ryan said, it's always been a dream come true. So yeah, it's hard to knock a smile off my face right now.
That's a good problem to have. So I kind of want to rewind this, guys, thinking about it, and really want to try to get both perspectives from this. Ryan, from obviously your perspective, both in and out of the car, and Chad, you working on the car. Let's start with Friday. And let's start even before you get to the track at Lima Land. Ryan, if you want to start off, what's going through your mind that day as far as when you're heading to the track?
So I got off work at like 3:30, and I usually just head straight to the track. So, like on my drive there, it's only about an hour. Like the whole time, I was pretty confident at Lima. Like anytime we go there, we're usually running, pretty decent. So, my whole way there, I was getting pretty pumped up. Obviously, we ran the D2 Midget there with Chuck Taylor a few weeks before that. So I kind of knew, where the track was with that. And I was like, in the back of my head, I was like, I really hope the track does what it did that night because we'd be bad fast. Luckily, towards the end of the night, it ended up like that. So I think having that in my back pocket really helped on Friday. But yeah, I mean, like on the drive to Lima on Friday, I was just like super confident in what we were going to do. And like, I just kind of psych myself up every week now of like, when I get there, you got to be immediately on the hammer. Like you can't let any grass grow. When you get there, you better be balls to the walls all the way out, or you're going to be running the back. So like, that's a problem I've had the last couple of years, especially at the beginning of the year. You start out and you're trying to ease your way back into it. And it's like, in sprint cars, there's no easing your way back into it. You got to go in, with both feet first. And that's kind of the attitude I had going into Lima was, I got to go in there wide open and see what this thing does and push it to its limits. And so that's kind of what I did. And, we started out Lima really good. And, we were second quick overall in qualifying and second quick overall in practice and qualifying. And then, went fourth to first in our heat race. And so that was pretty cool. And then the feature, that was a different story. We were fast, but, unfortunately things happened. And, going into Lima, I was just really confident because in the past we'd always been really fast there. It's kind of a home track for us because it's so close. And yeah, so Lima's that one that you go to, and it's just like that relief of pressure. It's just always fun, and you can kind of sit back and you're going to be somewhat decent.
And I would imagine that you have a different mindset going there. But what are you thinking? Are you as comfortable as Lima?
Oh, yeah, Lima's one of my favorite tracks we go to. It's just the whole atmosphere of Lima. We used to go there a lot back when I was turning wrenches for other sprint cars, and even when I drove there, and it was kind of a Friday night deal that we always went to Lima. So the whole environment there is just very exciting for me. And I know he's comfortable there and runs pretty well there most times. So in general, like I'm at ease somewhat when we go there mentally. It's just kind of chaotic for me because I got to get off work, and as soon as I get off work, I'm hauling out of there. And sometimes I have a crew with me, and sometimes I don't. It just depends on everybody's work schedule. So, fortunate this time, Rhonda got off early in time to go with me, so that made it a little more calming for me, so to speak. But no, when we go there, after we went there with the midgets and seen the track and the track prep they've had this year, and even at the end of last summer there, they did an excellent job. And talking with the guys that ran the GLSS race up there a few weeks ago, or the 360s, I don't know if it was a GLSS race, but they were even, had a good racetrack. So knowing his mindset that he is, I guess, so to say, comfortable there, or, he feels very confident when he runs there. That was definitely a blessing for us.
After running the midget there, was there anything set up to Lima, or did you've got a setup for Lima and that's kind of what you ran with?
Yeah, with the midget, it's a little bit different deal. I mean, it's the same as what I'm learning, so to speak, on, the adjustments are fairly similar. It's just a matter of how much you go with the coilovers on the front, and kind of tune on it throughout the night. And Chuck and I go over things with Ryan, and like at Lima, Chuck was making the calls, and then at Eldora, Chuck wasn't there, so I just kind of jumped in and did things like we do on our sprint car. And it's with that deal on the sprint car at Lima, our whole setup package this year has completely changed over the last 2 years. I've been working with Scott Bennett quite a bit on some things, and he's taught me a few things here and there. So a lot of that has really helped us. And so we went there not really knowing, and it was funny. The Thursday night when we were finishing up the car, I looked at Ryan. I said, "I'm going to try something a little different," and I went it over with him, and he goes, "You know what? I like it. Let's try it." It really well up there for us. So he rolled out of the box second quick, and we were fairly quick all night. So you could call it lucky or a good guess, or however you want to call it, but it seemed to work, and he was very happy with how the car felt.
So, Ryan, you talked about being quick that night, winning the heat race, and getting kind of caught up in that accident. First and second place got together, and you just didn't have anywhere to go. It was sprinkling at the time, too, so I'm sure that didn't help. What's your mindset then? Because you guys obviously were quick. You wanted, I don't know if you were able to see first and second place get together and thought, maybe I got a chance to get around these guys. Like, what are you thinking after that accident?
So, like, during the race, right, I saw Braden Clark and Matt Westfall. They were racing together, and no fault of anybody's own. It was hard racing. It was the last lap. They're going for it, so I can't blame either of them. Irritated in the moment, obviously, but it's racing and things happen, and so I tried my best to try and avoid them, but and I think kind of the rain may have played a little bit part into it, but I can't blame them. We ran 24 and a half laps with it sprinkling the whole time. So, if that's the only cause that happened because of the rain, then so be it. It made for a good end of the race and a good storybook by the end of the weekend. So, but I obviously frustrated afterwards just because we had a really good run. And I really did think I had a car to win that night as well. I saw those two racing pretty hard, and I figured, okay, if I can get my momentum built up here around the top by the end of it, maybe I have a shot coming out of 4 to grab it, just by an inch. But I was even happy, getting a top 3. I felt like I was in a pretty comfortable third at that point in time. So, a top 3 would have been great. A good payday, good momentum going into the next day at Montpelier. But, racing happens, things happen. I can't blame either of those guys, like I said. So, we had a bunch of hands on the car at the end of the night. I couldn't even get in to work on my own car to fix my own stuff because there was so many people that had come over and helped us. Like the Hazlets come over and helped us. Kyle Willis come over. A few guys from Facesher Owen Racing come over. So it was Nate Carley. He was one. Matt Westfall, who actually I ended up getting selected with, come over and helped us, get it straightened back out so we could get it back into the trailer and load it up and go home. So, good group of guys that come over and helped us and put that thing back together, at least to roll it into the trailer. So that was really cool, really nice. Obviously, once I got off the track and realized, like, okay, it wasn't a fault of anybody's, they were both pushing the issue. And, I don't know if it was weather or, just really, really hard racing that made Matt spin or whatever. But there's no fault there. No hard feelings, nothing at all. Like I said, we had a good run. That's what we took away from it at the end of the night was we finally found some speed. And something we could build on for the next day. So
yeah. So Chad, kind of like I asked Ryan, you guys were quick that night, won the heat race, running well in the feature, staring the podium in the eye, and then just racing happens. So kind of what are you thinking at that point as soon as the accident?
Standing there on the back of the four-wheeler, of course I'm number one cheerleader, right? So I'm hollering, screaming, and And I'm realizing, we could possibly pull off a win with this deal. I mean, everything would have had to go right to do it. But realistically, we led some laps on and off throughout that race, between him and Braden back and forth, and then Matt come up in there, and I think he went from first to third to first to second, like it seemed like every other lap. So, once coming down to that last lap, at that point, honestly, I was just like, just finish. So I was pretty content with running third. And then when that happened, it was like, well, crap. We had a good run. And when I go to the track, I mean, the struggles we've had the last 2 years, just to be in a top 10 is great. To be in a top 5 is even better. But to be in a top 3 was like, oh my God, is this really happening? So when he was running third and he got crashed, I mean, he come off, he was a little dejected, and everybody kept asking me, "Aren't you mad? Why aren't you mad?" I'm like, because we were in contention. That's all I've ever wanted. Um, so I wasn't upset. We had to get the car fixed, and I wanted to see how bad everything was. I knew we had, pretty much everything to straighten it. The only thing that concerned me was getting the frame straightened, and we tried to pour the powder out, and we just went a little too far with it. And then, we had to take it over to Matt Westfall's in the morning, which is kind of ironic. And, he legitimately felt bad. He's like, dude, I feel horrible. And I said, Matt, it's just hard racing, man. You've done this long enough to know that just hard racing is what it is. There was no animosity or hard feelings towards either driver or anything like that. We know the stakes going there, but no, I was very, very happy, even though the outcome wasn't what we wanted. But at the end of the day, I was still ecstatic that we were quick and one of the cars.
Yeah, and watching you guys this season, the progress has been there. So I can hear what you're saying as far as all right. Well, we were staring, like I said, we were staring the podium in the eye, and it just seems like every week, you guys, from what I'm seeing, you guys are getting a little bit quicker. So I know you both worked on it. One of the last ones to get out of the pits that night, got a couple hours of sleep, got back up, got back to work on it. I know you explained that Matt helped you guys get that straightened out. So at that point, you're like, okay, we're going to Montpelier. I know that was your original plan, but you didn't know if you could get it fixed. So now fast forwarding a little bit, car's fixed. You're going to race Saturday night at Montpelier. Now, Chad, what are your thoughts?
Montpelier has been a thorn in our side. And it's been a turning point for us at a couple times. So we'll take it back to the mini sprint days. We took him there. We had a lot of rainouts, and at that time, Montpelier had an open midget program there, and they would allow anything to run as long as it was a midget. And so the minis could run with them, and then they would have the D2s race with them, and then they would run against the opens. So you take a 160 horsepower mini sprint there against a 300 horsepower open midget. They're quite a bit quicker. And, we went there just to get some laps for him. And he was kind of in the way, so to speak, but we made the feature. And he was very, very intimidated. They come up on him so fast. So there was a little frustration there that out of his part and mine. We went home. We were like, we probably won't do that again. We don't need to be here with a mini sprint in a midget division. So we go back in the sprint car years later, and we were in the last transfer spot on a boss race, and for some odd reason, he had a brain fart and changed his line on the last lap, and they got underneath him. He lost the transfer. Well, we had watched the still fairly green in sprint cars, and we're still learning adjustments and each other and things like that. So he wanted it tightened up, so we tightened it up a bunch for the B main, and he started on the front row and went straight backwards, and we ended up not even making the race. So we left that night, and I remember going home, and it's not too often him and I ever have a blow up at each other, or we question each other's abilities, because I frankly can't do what he does in that race car, nor would I try. I'm not crazy. But we went home that night and I looked at him. I said, "Are you sure you want to do this? Like, this sucks." And he's like, "Yeah, I want to do this." He's like, "Are you sure you want to do this? Because the car sucked, you know?" And so we had a basically come into Jesus moment that night after Mount Pillier, and it like turned around for us. You know, we went to Lawrenceburg the next week and damn near won a race, and we started getting faster each week, and but it took that turning point. So then we go back last year and we get there and we were fairly quick. Not setting the world on fire, but you know, we were decent. And first flat fiasco, there was a car lost their brakes and got into us, spun us. He goes to the tail and he goes back to 19th and he drove it up to what, 11th, 10th or 11th, somewhere in there. And we left that night super happy. You know, we've always liked Mount Pillier. To get back to the original question, you know, it was like, what was I thinking? I'm like, hell, I don't know what we're going for tonight. It's Mount Pillier, and we always try to guess on the ride over what the car count's going to be. You know, is it going to be Stabby Slim? So we're looking at other tracks and who's where and what's where. So we knew it was going to be a big car count, and of course, my gut, when anytime we get a big car count, I get nervous. Like I still am always going to be that car owner or that crew chief or even that dad that's like, man, I hope we just make the show. You know, I hope we're quick enough just to get in. Had no thoughts or inclinations of, hey, we got a shot to win this thing tonight. It was more like, let's just transfer in and see what happens.
All right, so Ryan, you guys get a few hours of sleep that night. You work on the car. You get it to the point where you know you're going to the track. What are you thinking going to the track that night after what happened? You know, you're fast. You look good at Lima, looking at the top three. Bend the front end up. Had to get that fixed. You get it fixed. You think, okay, the car was quick last night. We've got this fixed. We should be in a good spot tonight. Or you think we got it fixed, but I don't know what it's going to do.
It's funny because, like, it's weird. We almost, when we crash and the car gets a little bit bent, you always feel a little bit faster. It's weird. I don't know why. So I wouldn't say I was super confident. I was actually kind of nervous going into Montpelier because I knew it was going to be like 40-some cars. And a lot of heavy hitters were going to be there. Like right as you roll in, Rylan Gray's there, Jack Hoyer and the Hazen car's there, Matt Westfall's there. So, you know, you see some big heavy hitters, you know, Zach Pretorius and some other guys, and it's just like, you know, at that point, the only thing going through my head was, let's just make the feature. If we can make the show, that's a win for us tonight. And, you know, let's just have fun, kind of salvage what we can out of the weekend, and just keep moving forward with the speed that we had on Friday. Nothing could have ever prepared me that was, you know, the end of our night was going to be the way it was on Saturday. I definitely wasn't thinking that we were going to get a win. I was just happy to, you know, even a top 10 that night. Because after practice, you know, the track was so slick and so different, and I was struggling as a driver to kind of figure it out. You know, we had been fast in practice and hot, you know, qualifying the past couple nights that we had raced, and I ended up fifth. I mean, I was completely out of the invert at that point, and I was so confused on what to do. I wouldn't say really beating myself up, but mentally just kind of struggling. And so, yeah, going into Montpelier from Friday, it was more of let's just kind of try and salvage something out of the weekend. Just try and have fun. We knew we had speed the night before. If we can capitalize on it, great. If not, you know, we're running against some hard Indiana cars, and if we can just make the feature, that would be a plus. So that was kind of like my outlook going into it was make the feature and just move on from there.
Okay, so I think you both felt confident enough in the ability to make the feature. You start ninth in the feature. When you start getting towards the front, are you? I mean, everything you're doing, I can only imagine is just you're processing things so quickly. Are you able to think of anything as far as like, okay, well, I'm getting, you know, I'm getting up towards another podium here. What's going on?
So, like, actually, like at the start of the green flag, even we'll go back before the, you know, I even strap in the car for the feature. We were joking around because the track was so slick and everything, and it wasn't a bad track by any means. It was just so slick and something that we hadn't experienced yet this year. So I was joking around with a few other drivers and my crew, my dad and Matt and Braden. And, I was joking around. I was like, man, I said, we're probably not going to go forward. I was like, if we're not, I'd just do a start and park. Like, just take one lap and put it in the infield and just watch the rest of the race. It was like, I didn't have a whole lot of confidence going into that race because it was going to be so slick. And I was like, I know that the top three were probably going to be Corbin Hazlett, Ricky Lewis, and Sean Westerfeld. And they were going to be right on top, rim riding the whole time. And they were going to be the only three that made it work. And everybody else was going to be on the bottom. And I didn't have the balls to go up there and do that because it was so razor thin in 1 and 2. And looking back on it, I would have actually loved to try it. I think we would have had good speed with how tight we had got the car. So I wasn't very confident strapping into the car, and starting 9th, I was like, okay, I'll give it a few laps and see how we're doing. Like, if I'm on the bottom and I'm just getting, freight trained, I'm just going to pull this thing in and just, make an excuse. But, we took the green, and I think I got up to like 6th right off the start. And I was like, okay, like, this isn't bad. We can salvage a top 10. Like, I'll just stay right here. I can deal with that. Or not deal with it, but like, that was pretty good. I wasn't going backwards. So that was kind of the thought process going through my head. And then I was right behind Kyle Johnson, and there was a massive hole in 3 and 4, like right in the center. And you could get a car length below it, but if you ran through it, man, it's going to upset you something fierce. And Kyle kept running through it pretty hard a couple laps right in a row, and I snuck by him because of it. And so I was like, okay, we're in a top 5 now. Like, this is pretty cool. I could keep running here. And then Bo Brandon, he was up on the top, just blasting the top. And it really wasn't benefiting him very much. So I actually ended up sneaking by him, and that's when we got up to 4th. But, the top 3 were so far gone by the time I got up to 4th, I didn't really, I figured, okay, I'll just, be okay with the top 5, and that'll, salvage our weekend like we wanted. And luckily some cautions went our way. And, when that last caution come up, I think there was a caution on lap 20, and Sean Westerfeld had missed the bottom, and I had passed him for 3rd. And then a few more laps, he passed me back once he got his momentum up around the top. And I was like, okay. When that caution came out and Aaron Fry came over the radio and he said, we're going to go green and white together. I said, if I've got any chance at getting a top, I wasn't even thinking of a win. I figured, I figured Corbin and Ricky were going to drive away with this thing. I said, the only way I can come away with 3rd place here is I have to snooker Sean on the bottom. That's the only way it's going to happen. And with the way he blew it, the restart before that, I was like, okay, I might have a chance. But knowing Sean, he's a really good race car driver, he was probably going to fix his mistake. And I was lucky enough that he did it in a different turn. He did it in 4 at the restart before. He did it in he missed the bottom in 2. And that's the same time that Ricky threw that massive slider going to Corbin, and he drove it off the racetrack. So coming out of 2, I got up to 3rd, getting past Ricky, and then end up sneaking by Sean down the backstretch. And as I'm going down the backstretch and I'm side by side with Sean, I know as a driver, and I'm sure Corbin thinks the same way I am, he's going to slide himself going into 3 and 4 because he knows somebody's going to be coming at him. And I think he was kind of expecting somebody to be at the top. So that's when he slid himself. And I think that's what killed his momentum enough that I could just keep it as straight as I could and hit my marks as best I could to just keep it on the bottom. And I felt there was just a little bit coming out of 4 that I just stood on it, and it launched that car coming off, and that's all she wrote. So, yeah, like the whole time I was not expecting any of this. Once I got up to, 5th even, I was like, this is going to be a great run. From 9th to 5th for us is crazy. I never would have guessed going 9th to 1st. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I was in turn 1 outside the fence watching, and I'm glad you mentioned that because I was actually going to ask that, because from my point of view, that last turn, I could see 4 and I could see the start finish line in 1 and 2, but there was a cloud of dust between the start finish line and 4, and I saw you in 4, and I was like, I think he's going to be a couple inches short. And then you guys come out of that cloud of dust, and all of a sudden, I could tell from my perspective, you're ahead of everybody. So I was wondering if you had a jump there coming out of 4 or not. And obviously, you touched.
Yeah. So like, I had found just a little bit of something, and that's kind of what me and Dad talked about before, was that because of the way you had to run each consistent lap, that I could not gas it out of 4 because it would mess my entrance up into 1 like as much as I wanted. So I knew, this is the last Hail Mary. If I can hit that just the way I want, I'll drive this, SOB straight off into the pits. I don't care. I'll go end for end off of that cushion. It don't matter. I don't have to make that next turn. I have to make it to the checkered. And that was kind of my mindset coming off of 4 was hammer it, and you can't wring the guts out of it because then you're going nowhere. So I had to be smart enough to keep the car underneath me, but, trying to give it a little bit more oomph to get it past. And luckily it happened. But the funny thing is I crossed the checkered and I didn't think I won. I thought Corbin still had it, and I missed it. So we both start racing each other into 1 and 2. And I kind of missed the bottom, and I think we both knew the race was over, and we were like, what do we do? And then we went down the backstretch, and that's when Aaron came over the radio again. He said the 21B to victory lane, and then it was, full waterworks, and I'm punching the rock screen because I was so excited. And so, but again, it was one of those things that even a top 10 would have been great, a top 5 even better, top 3 would have made our weekend, and this was just so far above that it made all of our dreams come true, and kind of felt good to have all of our hard work finally come together.
Definitely. So Chad, you can kind of break it down from your perspective, watching that feature race. What's going through?
I think I had my eyes closed the whole time, to be honest. No, I'm just kidding. So we're sitting back on the backstretch with all the crew guys. I had Braden on my left, and I had Matt kind of standing to the right of me up in front of the four-wheeler. And I was just kind of taking it in because I didn't know where we were going to be because the track was really slick, and I really tightened up on it pretty good, but didn't know if it was enough, so you got that worry. And he was joking around earlier like, yeah, I'm going to park this thing if it's too slick. And we both have this long-standing thing, if you're going straight backwards and we're going to be like dead last or close to it, just pull in and save tires and fuel. So not knowing what to expect when the green flag comes out, but when they threw the green and he starts rolling forward, I'm like, hey, we might have something here. The car's looking good, and we get, he's running 6, and I'm content with 6. Like, shit, yeah, we got a top 10, and he gets to 5th, and I'm like, okay, this is working in our favor. Well, that long run there, he was arcing up off of 2 like he hadn't done. And when he started doing that, Aiden Purdue and Braden Clark started catching him, reeling him in. And of course, he can't see me where I'm at, and I'm trying to give him signals, to get down. And he said that somebody hit a tire out there and it had to change his entrance to get in the corner. And, so, you can't see that as a crew guy, right? So I'm worried to death. He gets past, we go back to 6 and actually went back to 5th, probably would have went back to 6 because Braden was right there with him. But the caution came out and saved us. So moves him back up to 4th at that time. And, when it come down to that last lap, before that, he had got underneath Sean a few times, and Matt, he had my race pass up, and he's watching lap times, and he turns around, looks at me and Braden, he goes, we need a caution. And I looked at him, I said, don't jinx us. You know how that goes. We pray for caution. We are the caution. So he says, no. He said, we're the fastest car on the racetrack for the first 3 laps. He goes, and then once they get their momentum rolling, they're faster. He says, we need a caution. And I'm thinking to myself, I got Aiden Purdue right behind Ryan, who's just as good on the bottom, if not a tick better than we were. And I'm thinking, I don't need a caution. He's going to sneak underneath us. We're going to lose a spot or 10. You know how restarts go. So thank gosh, Ryan pulled off some good restarts. And that last lap, we were all back there joking. We're like, oh, this is going to be great. How's it going to go? Green and white checkered, green and white together. And nobody's talking. And I look over Corbin Hazlett's dad, Shane's about 2 4-wheelers over, and he's standing up, and I holler over at him. I said, "Hey Shane, how you doing?" And he goes, like his nerves were shot. And in all honesty, we were back there cheering for him. We wanted to see Corbin get a win because him and Ricky put on a show up there, and like Corbin deserved that race. He put on a hell of a race. So we were kind of rooting for him, and I'm thinking, hell, we're running fourth. We get fourth. It's beer drinking time. We had a great night. And he passes Sean down the back straightaway, and Ricky throwed the bomb and missed. He's passing Sean for second, and I'm like, hey, we're gonna pull second off on this deal. When he comes out of 4, that cloud of dust you were talking, you couldn't tell if he was in or not. He goes through that cloud of dust, and we couldn't really tell if he got him or not. So he slips in there, and from my vantage point, you couldn't tell whether or not he got it or not. So we're all back there talking, and all the crew guys are going, who got it? I'm looking at Shane, and Shane's going, I don't know. And Matt pulls up my race pass, and he goes, Ryan Barr won. And Braden's hollering, screaming, and Matt's hollering, screaming, and I'm just sitting there like in shock. I'm like, how did that just happen? Then the waterworks started, then the tears come in, right? So it was pretty cool. Yeah.
It was awesome to be there for that, and watching you guys. Like I told you, I see you in 4, I see that cloud of dust, and then when you guys come out of that cloud of dust at the line, I know, Ryan, you got to the line from where I was standing. I'm like, I think you won. And I don't have my race pass pulled up, but I'm sitting there watching like, I think you won. And then I hear Rhonda just screaming with excitement. And I'm like, he won. and you guys take off on the 4-wheeler, and I run over to say something to you guys, but you're already taking off. I turn around to go back. Rhonda's waiting to get on the track. We see each other, and we're like, yes! Like, it was just,
Yeah.
It would be hard to replicate that. It was just awesome for you guys.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for you guys that you got that win, and you've been building on it. And I hope that that's continued success.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. We had a lucky crew guy with us this week, and that was pretty good. Actually, we had 2 guest crew guys. We had Matt, who he called me. I think it was Thursday. He called me and wanted to know if we needed any help, and just me, Rhonda, Ryan, and Shelby. I'm always begging for help, and so he called and texted me, and then Braden texted Ryan and said, "Hey, I'm coming." I'm like, "Hot damn, this is great because we need it." And so to get those 2 guys a win was really cool too. That they get to experience victory lane with us as well on that night. So that was really cool.
Yeah, it was awesome to see from a fan perspective. I know how much work that your family team puts in. You guys are all of it, from social media to working on the car to driving. Obviously, Ryan, you guys do it all, and it's great to have some folks help you out. But you guys have been putting in the blood, sweat, and the tears for the longest time, and you finally got that win, and just it was awesome to see.
Appreciate that.
Well, thank you.
So we'll wrap this up, guys. Before we get going, do you have people you would like to thank, sponsors you want to shout out, and can you let us know where we can see you at for the month of June at the racetrack?
Yeah, so first and foremost, our sponsors, I got to thank Medway Tool Corp, ComConnect Telecommunications, JG Roofing, Joy Mayhab with Caldwell Banker Heritage Realtors, CDS, Go See Chase, Stifel Holman Auto. Steve and Audrey were both there Saturday night, so they got to witness that, and that was really special. Then we got to thank Matt and Heidi Flippo. They always come and support us and help out wherever they can. So really appreciate everybody coming on board. Also, One Shot Scrap and Recycling and Performance Paint and Supply. They always help and come on board. Mark Erie at SNH Nerfs. And got to give a big shout out to Scott Bennick, Jeff Claxton and Joe Devin there at DRC. Those guys always help us out the best whenever they can. So, I'm sure I probably missed one or two, but, I really appreciate everybody that's on the card. And we're a pretty lucky group that, we get to have everybody support us like we do. So I really appreciate everybody. But as for upcoming races, this weekend at Atomic, I will be in the D2 Midget, the Chuck Taylor Racing D2 Midget. And same for this, or not this Friday, but then the following Friday at Lima Land, I'll be in the Midget again. We're going to take that Saturday off of the sprint car stuff and focus on June 17th at Eldora. And then I think we have 2 nights that following Friday and Saturday, I believe, is Lima and Paragon. And then that next weekend is also a doubleheader, but I can't, maybe Butler and Millstream. I can't remember the last ones, but there you go, Fremont and Millstream. So, yeah, we're going to start the month out with the Midget and then end it with the sprint cars. So hopefully that keeps my rhythm going. Hopefully we can get Chuck a win this weekend too.
There you go. That's what I like to hear.
Three sponsors you forgot, Ryan.
Chad, if you got some,
you ahead. Forgot O'Reilly's. Yeah, we forgot O'Reilly's machine, K1 race gear, Bell helmets. K1 and Bell came on this year for Ryan. It's been a real big help.
Guys, I appreciate you jumping on and talking about that first 410 win. Awesome to see the 21B in victory lane. Hope to see that happen once again here real soon. Ryan and Chad, thanks for jumping on.
Hey, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Hope to see you again sometime, buddy.
As always, want to give a shout out to a Victory Fuel. From Purple Potion to Throttle Punch to Lucky Lemon, fueled by electrolytes, charged with vitamins, and kid-friendly. Fuel your victory at drinkvictory.com and use the code GESTURES10 at checkout to save. drinkvictory.com and use the code GESTURES10 at checkout to save.
I drank a beer. I drank another beer. 3 beers. 4 beers. Oh, no.
Race recap and racing to come. June 1st, Tri-City Raceway Park, Western PA Speedweek finale. Steve Snyder Jr. gets Jeremy Weaver coming out of turn 4, and he grabs his first 410 victory. Steve Snyder Jr. with the win, Jeremy Weaver in second, and Brock Hallett in third. And Jeremy Weaver is your 2025 Western PA Speedweek champion. Congratulations to Jeremy. June 3rd, Circle City, Indiana Midget Week, Night 1 for the USAC Midgets. Cale Drake with the win, Kevin Thomas Jr. in second, and Carter Sarf in third. USAC Sprint's also there. Shane Cottle gets the victory. Justin Grant in second, Trey Osborne in third. I'm sure you guys heard about this. Some pleasantries exchanged between Cottle and Grant. I don't feel like they'll be sending each other Christmas cards this year. Hunter Maddox would go from 20th to 7th in that one. June 4th, Eldora, Flow Racing Night in America. Bobby Pierce gets the win. Hudson O'Neill in second, and Dale McDowell in third. Jackson Motorplex with the World of Outlaw Sprint Cars. David Gravel sets a new track record, 12.338, 12.338 for David Gravel. But in the feature, Carson Macedo gets the win. Kerry Madsen in second, and David Gravel in third. Paragon and Indiana Midget Week. Night number 2 for the USAC Midgets. Jacob Denny gets the win. Justin Grant in second, and Cale Drake in third. In the sprints, Cameron LaRose would get the victory. Jordan Kinzer in second, and Kevin Thomas Jr. in third. Red Cedar and High Limit, Rico Abreu with the win. Kyle Larson in second, and Tanner Thorson in third. Sealands Grove and the Super Dirtcar Big Block Modifieds. Multiple cars and a really bad wreck on the front stretch. Thankfully, everybody was okay. Man, that was a mess. In the feature, Stuart Friesen gets the win, Alex Jankowski in second, and Matt Williamson in third. Jimmy Phelps will go from 25th to 5th in that one. June 5th at 141 Speedway with High Limit. And the upset, Tyler Arnaz gets the victory. Tanner Thorson in second, and Bill Baylog in third. June 6th, Attica, AFCS 410, Jordan Ryan with the win, TJ Michael in second, and Cap Henry in third. Congratulations to Jordan Ryan on his first Attica win. AFCS 305, Seth Schneider gets the victory, John Ivey in second, and Matt Foose in third. In the late models, Kyle Moore with the win, Rusty Schlink in second, and Devin Shields in third. Boot Hill Speedway with USMTS, Jim Chisholm gets the win, Chris Hennigan in second, and Rodney Sanders from 14th to 3rd. Eldora and the Dream prelims Thursday and Friday night due to the rain. Jonathan Davenport will get the win, Brandon Overton in second, and Ricky Thornton Jr. in third. And in the other prelim, Josh Rice. First win at Eldora, and it's a pretty big one. Josh Rice with the win, Bobby Pearson second, and Tyler Urban third. Limeland for the Ron Kale Memorial with GLSS, Max Stanball with the win, Phil Gressman in second, and Corbin Gurley in third. Mods, Aiden Hines gets the win, Dylan Woodling in second, and Dalton Lane in third. In the stocks, Tony Anderson with the win, Todd Sherman in second, and Craig Dipman in third. Plymouth Dirt Track and the World of Outlaw Sprint Cars, Kyle Larson loses a right rear and goes for a ride. A short time later, David Gravel has some mechanical issues, and he misses his first top 10, and I think it's something like 35 races, and would finish with a DNF and 22nd. The first DNF Gravel's had in over a year. Back to the racing. Buddy Kofoid would get into Rico in 4 coming to the white, and I don't know how Rico saved it, but he did. And Rico Avery was able to grab the win. Buddy Kofoid in second, and Tyler Courtney in third. Williams Grove and the All-Star Circuit of Champions. The Posse ate the All-Stars lunch in this one. Lance DeWeese with the win, Danny Dietrich in second, and Ryan Smith in third. June 7th, Beaver Dam Raceway and the Jim Boyd Memorial with the World of Outlaw Sprint Cars. Brad Sweet gets the win, Anthony Macri in second, and Sheldon Hodshield in third. Buda Hill Speedway for the Doug Murphy Memorial with USMTS. Rodney Sanders with the win, Kyle Strickler in second, and Jason Hughes in third. Fremont for AFCS 410s, Cap Henry with the win, Casey Jenzerzak in second, and Seth Sabo in third. AFCS 305s, Jamie Miller with the win, Brandon Torek in second, and Matt Foose in third. In the trucks, Sean Valeni gets the win, Kent Brewer in second, and Jamie Miller in third. Eldora and the Dream, and as I said earlier, Jonathan Davenport does it again. Superman wins his third Dream in a row. Jonathan Davenport with the victory, Bobby Pearson second, and Nick Hoffman in third. Knoxville 410 Racing, 89 cars on hand, and at the line, Tyler Courtney gets the win. Courtney gets stuck behind a lapper coming out of 4. There's a drag race to the line between Courtney and Corey Day, and Tyler Courtney gets the win. Corey Day in second, and Kerry Madsen in third. Lincoln Speedway and the Elijah Hawkins Memorial All-Star Circuit of Champions on hand. Once again, the PA Posse doing their thing. Danny Dietrich from 10th to the win. Troy Wagman Jr. in second, and Chase Dietz in third. Port Royal and Appalachian Speedweek night number 2, Greg Satterley with the win, Jared Miley from 14th to 2nd, and Trevor Feathers in third. Sharon in the 410s, Dale Blaney gets the victory, Jacob Bogenweld in second, and Adam Kekic rounds out the podium. In the Rush Mods, Chase Wolbert gets the win, Darren Gallagher in second, and Rob Christike in third. Rush Wingless Sprints, John Mullock gets the win, Arnie Kent in second, and Gail Ruth Jr. in third. Texarkana 67 Speedway with ASCS. Go check out this one. The top 3 battling for the lead over multiple laps. But in the end, Sam Haferteef Jr. gets the victory. Blake Hahn in second, and Matt Covington would round out that podium. As I'm recording this June 8th, Angel Park's going to have the World of Outlaw Sprint Cars. Goods is supposed to have 200-lap Enduro race. Hagerstown and Appalachian Mountain Speed Week night number 3. Kokomo and Indiana Midget Week finale with USAC Midgets. And racing to come, June 10th, Eagle Raceway with High Limit, Path Valley, Appalachian Mountain Speed Week night number 4. June 11th, Fayette County Speedway with USMTS. June 12th, 34 Raceway, the Power I 410, Cedar Lake Speedway with USMTS, Creek County Speedway with ASCS, Sealands Grove Speedway, and Appalachian Mountain Speed Week night number 5. June 13th, Alltech and USCS. I know the boys from the Pit Report will probably be on hand for that one, Attica and Ohio Speedweek, night number 1 with the All-Star Circuit of Champions, Bedford and Appalachian Mountain Speedweek finale, Callaway Speedway and the Power Eye 410 sprints, Cedar Lake Speedway with US MTS, Creek County Speedway with ASCS, Hartford Speedway with GLSS, Jacksonville Speedway with IRA, Knoxville with the World of Outlaw Sprint Cars, Limeland with the USAC Midwest Thunder Midgets, Mod Stocks and the Dirt Track Truck Series, Moeller Raceway Park and the Ironman Impact Race Gear 40 with the Valvoline American Late Model Ironman Series, Ohio Valley Speedways Racing, Red Hill Raceway with USAC Sprints, Smoky Mountain Speedway with the Mountain Moonshine Classic night number 1 with the Lucas Oil Late Models, June 14th, Brownstown Speedway with the Don Russell Memorial and Late Models, Stocks, Crown Vics, and Hornets, Butler with GLSS, Cedar Lake with US MTS, Florence Speedway is going to have dollar days with Mod Stocks, Compacts, Crown Vics, and $1,000 to win for Sport Mods. Goods Raceway has 7 divisions, I-55 with IRA, Knoxville with the World of Outlaw Sprint Cars, Lincoln Speedway with Appalachian Mountain Speedweek, Lake Ozark Speedway with the Power Eye 410, Mudlick Valley with the Valvoline American Ironman Late Models and $7,500 to win, Mods and Sport Mods, and $1,500 to win for KDRA Bombers as well. Sharon Speedway and Ohio Speedweek night number 2 with the All-Star Circuit of Champions, Smoky Mountain Speedway and the Mountain Moonshine Classic finale with the Lucas Oil Late Models, Tri-State Speedway with ASCS, and June 15th, Bridgeport Motorsports Park and Appalachian Mountain Speedweek finale. Millstream's going to have Ohio Sprint Speedweek night number 3 with the All-Star Circuit of Champions and the USAC Midwest Thunder Midgets.
Goodbye. Mwah! And good night, bang.
Thanks as always for listening to the Dirt Court Jesters podcast. Follow us on Spotify, X, Facebook, and YouTube. And we hope to see you guys at the track.